that makes sense. I thought you'd be recording.
Good afternoon, good morning, everyone. It's still morning. My name is Chad Oakland. Physicist over in the happiness room that now is forced upon you over here. Feel free to continue hacking and everything over there, but we'll be doing the keynote over here. My name is Chad Oakland. I'm a community builder, strong advocate for a re-democratized social web. I sometimes dabble in computers, which has led me to administer Mastodon Canada, the largest Canadian Mastodon instance with 36,000 users. Mastodon Canada and I are based in Edmonton, and I'm excited to be enjoying some gorgeous late fall weather here in Ottawa with all of you. I'm thrilled to be here with you at WordCamp Canada, introducing a couple of incredible speakers over the next couple of days who share my values and the societal importance for an open and democratized social web. When Elon Musk acquired Twitter, which I refer to now as Zitter, it was a significant blow to our ability to organize grassroots rallies, email and phone campaigns, and other forms of action. We used Twitter for a range of activities, from organizing the longest-run rallies in front of the Alberta Legislature during the COVID-19 Delta wave to high school students coordinating school walkouts for safe educational conditions. However, with the platform's transformation, we've seen a division in the digital landscape and suppression of prominent activist voices, which I believe is intentional. Currently, we're witnessing the government launching public attacks on teachers through misleading, high-budget advertising. Simultaneously, the opposition is spread thin across 3 or 4 different microblogging platforms, making it challenging to present a unified front. Whether it's in Canada, the US, or abroad, now more than ever, the role of independent, open, timely, accessible journalism is crucial in safeguarding our fragile democracies. The work of the Tyee, David Klimenhaga, the Pembina Institute, the Alberta Council, Canada Land, Susan on the Soapbox, Cabin Radio up in Northwest Territories, all of these different publications, even the Beaverton, which seems to be flying way too close to the sun these days, is very vital. WordPress is behind many of these critical voices, and that's why WordCamp is significant. It strengthens the WordPress platform, which is the soapbox that many rely on, and addresses the current challenges of reach, like using protocols like ActivityPub and AT-Proto, which we'll be hearing about in the next couple of days, to reach more readers, inform, and ultimately influence citizens. So let's introduce our first keynote. Dave Weiner, our keynote speaker for today, has been a pioneering force whose contributions have shaped the very fabric of the open web. From his earliest work in blogging software to his enduring impact on syndication, podcasting, and content ownership, his influence has been foundational. Dave is a software developer, blogger, and podcaster. He is an early developer of the open web, as I said, and created a lot of tools WordPress is built on today. Dave grew up in Queens, New York, has degrees in mathematics and computer science. He was a catalyst in scripting environments like Frontier and Radio WordLand, and started 2 Silicon Valley companies. He's written for Wired and has been a fellow at Harvard and New York University. Please, everyone, welcome Dave Weiner.
That was very nice. So, can you hear me? Yeah, I guess you can. So I made slides, but I hate slides. So I'm going to only do 3 of them, and I have a whole bunch more. If you go to scripting.com, there's a link to all the rest of the slides. Maybe we'll get to some of them. But I want to encourage you all, if you feel like there's something that you absolutely have to say while I'm talking, raise your hand, we'll get you a mic, and you get to do that here. And there's our performative AV person who
does some interpretive dance, but that'll be later.
Be happy with that. I really like discussions. I don't like trying to figure out what interests everybody here. I want to say that I spent most of this morning. I got here at 7 a.m. Was it 7 a.m? About 7 a.m. this morning. For no good reason other than I couldn't sleep. And so I got to meet, about a dozen people here. And what I found out, I'm not a member of the WordPress community. Have used WordPress going back to its inception. I wrote the XML RPC API that it uses. And that was a standard in the blogging world, and I guess it still is a standard in the blogging world because, amazingly, WordPress still supports it. It still works. So you're looking at something that was done in 1998, and it still works. And this is one of the. Let me go to the next slide. This is why I hate slides. You know what I do? Is I start talking about what's on the next slide, and before I get to that slide. Put my glasses on so I can read this. But yeah, no, it's very, very, very rare in the tech world that a developer as successful. You know what? I don't want to. Actually, you know what I call this? I call this WordPress. I don't call it automatic. I don't call it Matt. I don't call it the community. It's the whole thing. That's the way I think of it, and I find it's the only useful way to think of it. Because, as you know, it's an open source community, and it really works that way. I mean, and the ethos, the values of this community are absolutely incredible. And I've gotten to see that in the last couple of years because I've been doing active development on the WordPress platform. And you can see the trails of integrity in the platform. The fact that they don't deprecate things. Deprecate is one of the worst words in technology. It says basically we don't give a damn about users, we don't give a damn about developers. And I have been deprecated many, many times, and I can tell you it doesn't feel very good. I want to name some places. Apple, huge deprecator. I have so much software that I poured so much effort and time and money into. It just doesn't run on today's hardware. And I don't know. Google wants to deprecate the web, if you can believe that. They've decided that the web has to behave, your app has to behave a certain way on the web, which has nothing to do with the way the web is spec'd. It means that sites that I have that go back to 1994 in some cases, they don't work according to their philosophy for how the web should work. My philosophy is the web doesn't have an owner, and we're all guests on the web, and guests don't make the rules. And so Google could invent something new, but they can't call it the web. You also said open web, and this is something I have a problem with, because you don't need the open part. The web is open. It's like saying wet water. Well, water is wet. You don't need to say it's wet. So, I mean, it raises the question of like, well, if you're talking about the open web, what kind of web are you? What is the alternative? And I think a lot of people think that anything that runs in a web browser is the web, but that is not true. Not true at all. And so let me just I probably have already gone through most of these things, right? So the stability, no breakage, maintains compatibility. The community, which you're looking at here, or at least a part of the community, has values, makes contributions. A lot of the things you hear about that are great about WordPress came out of the community, and it covers all of the activities. The group that I'm most interested in are the writers. I did software that, like WordPress, before WordPress existed. There were two products. One was called Manila, and the other one was called Radio Userland. And we always looked at it that we were developers, we were designers, and the people we were all working for were the writers. And so it was sort of a conflict, but the writers were, if they had an opinion about how something should work, we listened really, really carefully. And that's how I'm approaching WordPress these days. I have lots of experience with WordPress in terms of supporting formats and protocols like I mentioned, the XML-RPC interface and also RSS. They have not broken anything as far as their RSS support is concerned. Applications that ran 10 years ago still run. I also worked, there it is. I also worked with them on something that very few people know about called RSS Cloud. And what that gives you is something that people assume that RSS implies polling, that you're like gonna, you have to always check the feed to see if it's changed. RSS Cloud says you don't have to do that. You can register with a server that gets notified of changes, and then you will be notified of those changes. And it's magic when you see it working. It basically, you get instant updates. So it turns out that RSS and WordPress are pretty good foundation for the social web. And because, and let me just see, make sure that I haven't. Well, yes, I left out the biggest deal of them all. See, it's hard when you have to read these things and you have to wear glasses to do it. So yes, the API, and I met Ryan. Is Ryan in the room? There he is. Ryan, and Ryan's one of the heroes of this community as far as I'm concerned. He did the REST API for WordPress, and that REST API is one of the most unsung accomplishments in all of technology. What it means is, and this came as a surprise to me. I didn't know it existed until a couple of years ago when I was working on a product called WordLand, and I wanted to add WordPress identity so that you could use your WordPress account to log in to the service. And so I used Node.js for the server stuff. And I noticed that there was an API called WP-COM, that's the Node package is called. And it did the identity stuff, but it also did everything else. And it's a remarkable thing to see that any application that can access a REST interface, which I think is a fairly decent definition of the web, can now extend WordPress. And it's a complete covering of the user interface. The reason I know that is because that's how they implement their user interface in WordPress. So if you see a function on WordPress, on a WordPress site, in the user interface of the WordPress site, you can be sure that there's an API for it behind that. And I've now been building on that API for, I don't know, about a year and a half, and I haven't found an exception. I've found incredible support in the community for answering questions about how these things work, and I've been able to build a product that I'm going to demo for you in a few minutes called WordLand. There. So, and people, I like this description of WordPress, and I know it's different from the description that a lot of other people use, that it's a worldwide text database. And where else do we see the idea of a worldwide text database? Well, Twitter is a good example of that. Threads is a good example. Blue Sky, even the mighty Mastodon, is basically performing the same function. And I've never personally installed a Mastodon server. And I've never personally installed a WordPress server, but I'm told that WordPress is a lot easier to install than Mastodon. We agree. And if we can sort of coerce WordPress into the role that these systems are playing, we can have a lot more compatibility, a lot more developers, because there are, I don't know, how many developers are there that know how to develop with WordPress? Yes, a lot. It would be a good answer. Do you have an answer? Your hand is up.
Yeah, we can do it by plugin and we can just...
Wait, okay. Say again.
So we can do the custom code, get this thing all sorted out with the functions and everything.
I didn't understand. How many WordPress developers are there?
Oh.
Just yell it out.
That's an excellent question. I don't know, a lot. Yeah.
A lot.
I thought
Okay,
you were,
that's
I
a
thought
big
you were
answer.
asking us to raise our hands.
Raise your hands, everybody. Come on, let's lighten up a little. I used to run a conference called WaterCon many, many years ago. One of the first things we did was we sang a song. The first thing actually we did was decide what the song is. So everybody felt that they were obliged to contribute, and we picked something easy. Do I need to do that, or are you guys going to? I feel like a teacher. I have been a teacher, by the way. I feel like I'm obliged to get you going, so I can get going. So that's really what what the last thing I said, that's really what I'm about, work out of the web. And in order to do that, I've chosen WordPress and RSS. Those are the two things. If I can't make it happen with WordPress and RSS, well, I'll probably have to look for another way to do it. But it's always going to be of the web. The rule, that's the rule. Can't do it. If it requires a centralization, then I can't do it. It's not like decentralized. It's different. You know, you decentralize something that is centralized. But the idea is here, no centralization ever allowed in this thing. And the cool thing on that is that both RSS and WordPress are not centralized. You can operate a WordPress server without registering with any, I mean, you have to register with DNS. So there is some centralization required. But it's basically the centralization that the web itself is built on. And I don't think the other systems can decentralize. And the reason is, if you've built something and you didn't have to build it decentralized or uncentralized, then you're going to build some features that can't easily be decentralized. And that's why I don't buy, when Blue Sky says they're going to be decentralized, I say, no, you're not. It's a nice idea, but you're too far into this thing in order to be able to do that. But if from the very beginning you don't do things that require centralization, you may not have all the features, but the features you have will not require you to be centralized. So that was the first thing I wanted to talk about is what makes WordPress so great. Let me just grab some water first. But as was mentioned, I played a role in the design of podcasting, and it was based on an idea that a friend of mine, Adam Curry, brought to me. Adam, at the time, was a very famous MTV personality, and I sort of thought, well, you know, this guy can't have any actual ideas, but and this is a handicap. A guy like any beautiful, absolutely gorgeous person, physically and whatever. He's like, you know, if you ever seen Interview with a Vampire, that's Adam. I'm sorry, I mean that in only the most positive way. And you know, but that's got great advantages. You can get a job on, you know, doing hosting. Does anybody here not know what MTV is? I expect at some point that will actually.
We know much music.
Sorry?
This audience may know much music.
Yeah, but I think there was a point in time where even my mother knew what MTV was. But anyway, so he had this great idea, and he had to really hit me over the head with it over and over and over again before. And he actually had to implement it in my programming language called Frontier. And I mean, that got my attention because the guy is not a programmer. And he showed it to me, and I said, actually, you know, that's actually a pretty good idea. And what he said was basically, you know, audio can be transmitted over the net just like anything else, and you can attach it to an RSS feed, and all of a sudden you've got radio on the internet. And I thought, wow, that's a really great idea. Let's do it. And that's what we did. It was like a matter of, I don't know, a month of software implementation. It obviously was not a very complicated piece of software to write. And we had podcasting up and running in January of, I think it was 2001. So, and it's another one of those applications that never was centralized. Think about it. Podcasting, there's no central service you have to register your podcast with. All you do is you put it on a website and give it an RSS feed and tell everybody where the RSS feed is, and that's it. And it's amazing how well it's worked. You know, it wasn't an instant hit. It took about 4 years from inception to the point where we had a growing base of podcasts. It wasn't until 2004 that it actually started growing. That was when we got support from NPR, National Public Radio in the United States, And there were a handful of tech podcasters at that time. And then it's the great thing that happens when you start getting a little bit of critical mass is other people see what they're doing and they say, wow, I can do that too. And then this is like, people love ripping off ideas. They don't necessarily like originating them that much. So that's what if you want to get people to do things, you have to do it first. Make it look good. It's like, I don't know if you ever heard the Tom Sawyer story with painting, whitewashing the fence.
Yep.
All he had to do was make it look like a lot of fun, and then everybody wanted to do it, and all of a sudden Tom Sawyer doesn't have to whitewash his fence anymore. So, my goal from the beginning was not necessarily, I wanted to do podcasting, but more important, what I wanted was I wanted radio to become an open protocol. And so, almost from the beginning, everybody was saying, well, this can't last. This won't last. And basically, some big company is going to take this over. And a lot of them tried. They're still trying to take it over. And it hasn't happened yet. And what we're talking about now, like if the first podcasts came out in 2001, that's like ridiculously 24 years ago, for crying out loud. And I'm not saying that it'll never happen. I'm not saying that it has such a charmed existence that it can never be usurped and centralized and owned and controlled. But it hasn't happened yet. And I think there's something to be learned from that. And I don't know the answer to this, by the way. I don't think anybody knows the answer as to why has podcasting managed to stay so open and independent while text has become this nightmare of incompatibility. It's remarkable how, so what's the difference? Well, I have a theory. And the theory is, and you can read the slide as well as I can, it's about MP3. And so when we defined this, there was absolutely no discussion about what we would use to represent audio. And there was no need to have discussion because there was only one answer. And that was MP3. And that meant that right off the bat, everybody interacted with everybody else. And that's the difference between text and podcasting. And I think what we can do is we can fix it for text and give it the same chance that audio had. Because, and this is where I go off into the slides, and I'm not going to go through all that, but there's a history here. WordPress came out in, I think, 2003. Oh, what is that? Oh, that's scary. You should see this. He's crazy. Oh, that's yours. It's not mine. It was a black wolf. That's all right. I want you to know I paid her to do that. She thinks that's funny, right? I was genuinely freaked out. I was not acting. Where was I? Yeah, no, I said that. Okay, so text. Right. Yes. Yes. And WordPress, okay, so what's the answer with text? And why is it such a problem? It's a problem because, I said WordPress came out in 2003. Twitter comes out in 2006. Twitter is the pivotal product in this whole thing. And what Twitter did was said that text is 140 characters, no more than 140 characters, no titles, no links, no style. You can't edit, no enclosures. Can you tell that I've kind of memorized that? Because this is the story I've been telling. I don't know, we love Twitter. Twitter in the initial years that it was there was a revelation. You could find out what people you were working with, or people you knew. You could find out what their lives are like. And it was remarkable. But it wasn't the web. I mean, I think we need to understand that very clearly. What they did was they took the web and they locked it up in a 140 character limit and took out all the cool features. The most important one they took out was linking. And I don't think that any system that doesn't allow writers to link has any business calling themselves the web. Because it's the fundamental feature of the web. It's the thing that made the web the web. And so I think, and I think we should maybe start a group somewhere of great thinkers who say, okay, this is what the web is. Or you could ask Tim Berners-Lee. I bet, because Tim Berners-Lee had a pretty good idea of what the web, you know who Tim Berners-Lee is? Yeah, just want to make sure. Okay. He had a pretty damn good idea of what the web was. And this is what happens when you get one person doing it, and it's not a committee, and there are no big companies involved that are trying to protect their business models and keep individual competitors out and all the rest of it. He just looked to see what we were doing with text on personal computers and said, hey, that's good enough, let's just do that. And that's evolution. And evolution is a huge deal here. What we're doing is evolution. When we create these new things, we're doing the things that evolution, we're trying out an idea. If it works, it becomes part of what we all do. There's another good marker for what text could be, and that's Markdown. And Markdown is one of the great gifts that we've been given. At this point in time, I think we'd be very glad that we have it because it defines text, and it defines almost all the features I was mentioning before that Twitter doesn't have. But what it leaves out are all the dangerous stuff that's in HTML that our feed readers have to scrape out. As a result, most feed readers just take everything out but the text. And that's no answer. That's no answer at all. So I think the first thing we have to do is we have to figure out what the MP3 of text is. And that's what I say. I say either go to the web, the HTML standard, and say, okay, that does it. But we're going to have to limit it so that you don't get iframes and embedded code and all the rest of that stuff, because those were probably great ideas, but they don't stand up to the evolution test. We think that systems that are built on those things are not systems that we want to use. So, when I saw the API that WordPress has, I thought, well, here's the answer. This is what I've been sort of like mulling over for years and years and years. How do we get into this so that we have a social system where people can connect but not be owned? That's the old story. I mean, we've heard it a million times. If you can't figure out what the product is, then you're the product, right? And that's what I want to undo. I want to create systems that can peer with each other just like the web does, without any of the poison that the silos have put in. And what I found is that WordPress totally lives up to that. That what WordPress considers text is the web. And that's remarkable. I consider that a gift. That here we are in 2025 after all we've been through. We don't need it anyway. After all we've been through, we're here in 2025. WordPress is what? 22 years old? Get that right? And it still is pure. I mean, how did that happen? It's a gift. And it has this fantastic API that says, I like programming in JavaScript using Node.js, and that means I can build apps on top of it. And it means that somebody can be using Python, and they can build apps on top of it, or some language we've never heard of, and they can build apps on top of it. That says to me that WordPress, how am I doing on time? When is this over?
18 minutes.
18 minutes? Okay, I got to get the demo in, and there's got to be some discussion, please. Let me just go right into the demo. How about that? Does anybody have anything they want to say or question they desperately want to ask at this point? Doesn't have to be this. Okay, all right.
I have a question here.
Oh, awesome. Get that man a mic.
Lady mic.
Oh, sorry, lady.
That fat old broad, I'm like,
Okay, what did you say? Did I hear that right?
yes, you did.
Okay.
Harry.
You might want to stand up so everybody. Thank you.
I think, to your question about how many WordPress developers there are, I'm going to call it 50 million.
Phew.
Because every time we do a release, we see that there have been 100 million downloads, give or take, maybe 120. And if we think half of those are maybe non-coding admins, then the other half, I think worldwide, are developers.
Wow. Say that number again.
Between 50 and 60 million
Wow.
globally.
See, that's pretty impressive. That's impressive compared to the other platforms out there. I can tell you there aren't 50 million Twitter developers. I can tell you that with some degree of certainty because I was one, and then I got booted off the platform like everybody else did. Yeah, I mean, that did not, I mean, I never thought they would do that, by the way. But, yeah.
I did.
You did? Well, I should have talked to you then. I don't know why I didn't ask. I mean, I thought maybe at some point they would. But as long as it was, Jack Dorsey wasn't going to do it.
No.
No, but Elon Musk, that's another story. All right, so let me get into the demo. All right, let's see. I have a million other things to say, but I don't have the time. How do I get out of this? Yeah, it's not doing it. Yeah, this will do it. No, I didn't actually need to do that, did I? Right, and I think this is how I get full screen again. Is this anybody? Can you see? Ah, exactly. You got it. Okay. So this is WordLand, and we start off with the timeline. And the idea here is the timeline should somewhat resemble the timelines that you see in social networking software, like Twitter, like Blue Sky, like Mastodon. And what you're seeing here are the feeds that I edit personally. Zoom in. I don't think I can. No, don't. Please. I don't think you should do that. Oh, okay. My experience, I want you to know, I've been doing demos for a long time, and my book on demos says you don't do that. You don't do that because you know what happens. Boom. She's great. Can we have a round of applause? Far more entertaining than I am. Okay, so let's see. Can you read this one? Okay.
Yeah.
So I have a bunch of different sites, and I wish I just had one. I really do. But reality is, I have to have a lot because let's see. This is my main blog, the one that I've had since 1994. This is WordCamp Canada. And I've been given access to this site because I'm one of the keynote speakers here. Did you know that? And then this is my link blog. This is great art on Blue Sky. This is a feed that I automatically generate. And what it does is it pumps out beautiful art to Blue Sky, actually every hour, but I only wanted the daily feed in here. And this is a site called Daveverse. And I think that's about it. Actually, I think there's another one in here. But this is a list of the sites, and if I click on that, here, let's do this. Let's go take out Daveverse, because you see Daveverse and Daveverse. So what this does is, lets me just take out, so I can take out my link blog, experimental, scripting news, and just leave great art. And now you're seeing all the art. I felt this was a really important feature to put in because once I had this working, this is something I've wanted for many years. And I finally said, let's do it in this product. And what I found is the link, I do far more link blog posts than I do anything else. And it was just crowding everything out. And I realized I need to have better control over this stuff. I want to point out something else. This is an example of a post that has a lot of text. People say 140 characters is just the max, or they don't say that anymore, they say 300 characters is the max, or 500 characters. There's no magic number there. So what you need to do, in my opinion, is make it so the software doesn't care how many characters there are, and just make it so you just single click and get to see the whole thing, and click again and get it back. So now I have to, I think, probably put the mic down because I need another hand, because now I have to show you how you write a post for this. You want to help me with this? Yeah, awesome. Thank you. Great. Another round of applause. Don't let it go to your head. Right? Okay, so how do I create a new post? I click the plus icon here, and it confirms that I want to create a new post. And then I say, this is a demo of WordLand at the WordCamp E. Does everybody know what the EH stands for? Thank you. I am an American, and I'm somewhat proud of that. I had no idea until they told me. And then I can just go blah, 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 blah. Okay? And then I choose a site that I want to post to. And what it's offering me, this is, remember I said the API that Ryan did? What I did was I made a call to the API. I said, hey, what are all the sites I can post to? And you can see there's a lot of them. But isn't it? He says it's snazzy. I think it's beautiful, actually. So then I want to post it to Daveverse. And there's a reason why I want to do that. And Evan is going to raise his hand. He's going to be so excited. You won't believe this. Okay, hold on. Let me put this in here. Evan will. He's our other keynoter, by the way. I'm totally looking forward to that. Excited. And I will flesh this out later. I'll fix all the weird text. And then I'm just going to, give it some categories. Why not? These are the things that I felt that writers would need. The idea here was to create a this is all going to WordPress. Everything I'm doing here is going into various different WordPress sites, and I'm making a tool for writers. That's what I'm doing here. And it has all the writing functions grouped in one place. Now, WordPress is great, but all this stuff is scattered all over the user interface of WordPress. And it needs this. That was my feeling. I felt very, very strongly about that. And I spent a year and a half developing this accordingly. And so let's just say testing and WordLand are the two categories. I close this. Note that down here it says testing and WordLand. And then I click on the airplane icon. And there, it's gone. And now thank you. Wait.
I'm so excited.
Wait, this is not the right moment. He got excited, but I'm not sure he knew it. But you did play the straight man. Right?
I'm just resetting it.
Okay, so then I click on the eye icon. And there. Okay, so this is my WordPress site. Okay. What? Why is it? You think that's funny? I don't see any joke. Okay, but it is. I mean, it is my WordPress site. Now I need to get up. Okay, this is going to be a little weird. How do I get to the? Here, I know. Let's see. Show. Nope. Bookmarks bar. And I'm looking for DV. Help me out if anybody sees it. EV. There it is. Okay. Notice the Mastodon icon there? Except it's not loading it. You see, there has to be one thing that doesn't work in every demo, right? No, there it is. It just took a while. So, do you believe how beautiful? Now you can go. Okay. That is, by the way, a miracle of heroism by Matthias. I'm gonna butcher your name.
Matthias Pfefferla.
Say again?
Matthias Pfefferla?
That's it. What she said.
Lovely human being.
He is a lovely, lovely human being. If you ever get a chance to chat with him, you will laugh so many times because he's just a very, very happy fellow. He did a podcast with Evan and a couple of weeks ago, and I just listened to it on the drive. I highly recommend it. It's like, these are two extremely happy people, and they're laughing. And you know what it is? They laugh a lot, and they are laughing at their own misfortune. Right? Did I get that right? But what's beautiful about it is, and smile, because they won. They won, and the beautiful thing about it is they didn't win just for themselves. They won for you and me and everybody else. What they did was they made this possible. What did I just do? Okay. Oh, do I get my microphone back now? You think I'm up to this? Okay. I don't know. I kind of like it. No, it really helps me. I'm going to have to do some typing. I mean, it's wonderful. Now I want to go back into WordLand and show you a few other things about editing. So first let me reload this page. How much time we got now?
We actually were going to let you have a few more minutes, maybe about
okay,
another
that's
10
fine.
minutes,
I'm pretty
15?
close. I'm pretty close to done.
Okay.
So I'm going to show you through the icons here. We already saw this one. That gets you to the published version of it. I'm not going to bother with well, this is an RSS feed, obviously, right? And this one allows you to edit the post. And here you can do all the styling, and I can put a list of objects in here, but this is something I really love. This came in fairly late in the product. You can ask for the markdown version of that text. And that made all kinds of things possible that weren't otherwise possible, aside from the fact that we love Markdown. That's cool. And I don't know, I wrote it 3 minutes ago. There's 89 characters. If I click that, it tells me the number of words. You know, it's the usual things. It's got a whole menu of options sitting in here for things that you can do. And I'm sure I forgot a million different things, but now we have time for questions. Not really. Does anybody? Thank you.
So, have you considered putting the Gutenberg block system into your editor?
No.
Why not?
Because this is for writers. And writers think in these terms. I don't even know what it would mean to put the Gutenberg block system in here. We can talk about that later. I mean, obviously this is a frequently asked question. Or I give you another option. If you strongly believe in this is something I didn't mention, but the back end for this software, there is intermediate software on the server between this and WordPress. It's all open source. It makes it much easier for someone else to create an editor like this than it was for me, because that's what I want to do. I want to create a whole market of editors. So why would you please write one that works beautifully for people who love Markdown? It's not that I don't love Markdown, it's just that it isn't the, sorry? I'm sorry, yes, Gutenberg. Sorry. I'm thinking I got Markdown on the brain right now.
I'll ask you another question there.
What?
Should there be an RSS?
Should there be an RSS feed that is Markdown driven or content of? So branded
That's a great
version.
question. As a matter of fact, there is. There is. And, I'm the guy who also wrote the RSS 2.0 spec. And not like anybody listens to me after I did that, but my Evan is probably the only person in the world who can relate to that, okay? Because he tells a similar story. But yes, I mean, I'm running a campaign very quietly with developers of feed readers and publishing to say, let's get Markdown in the feeds. And there is Markdown in the feed. WordLand generates an RSS feed in addition to the one that WordPress generates. And in ours, we have something called the source namespace. And Markdown is part of that, and we support it. So I'm starting by putting Markdown in our feeds, and I'm encouraging developers, like, for example, Brent Simmons, who does the Net Newswire product, who's a longtime friend of mine. I asked him if he would do it. He said yes. So a future version of Net Newswire will support this. And it'll get some motion in RSS again, some development, some innovation. And hopefully this time around, instead of people like, I don't know, being, I would say childish and saying, well, we can't just let anybody do this. I hope that people sort of look, and this is the culture of the WordPress community that I'm hearing, is that, yeah, let's try out some good ideas and see if we can't make them stick. So the answer is yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
So I wanted to make a couple of comments. One, like Markdown, 100%, I love it. I think it's important to point out that Markdown is also natively supported by almost all AI chatbots, and it's
I didn't know that. In what way?
a lot of the AI outputs from the chatbots are generated in Markdown. You can actually copy as Markdown. Google Docs natively supports Markdown, so it makes it really easy to take something.
I mean, I have to say good things about Google now. Is that what you're saying?
No, not at all, not at all. And, I was on Google all day,
That's beautiful. I did not know that.
And I also wanted to point out that you talked about global text ecosystems, that WordPress is one. I think that you should also consider that GitHub and the Git ecosystem is a great global text ecosystem.
Totally.
And supports Markdown. And there's a lot of great Markdown content in that ecosystem.
And you want to know what we should do? Yes, we should do that. What we should do is we should implement the API of WordPress on top of that.
100%. I'm here for it.
Let's just do it. You know what it is? Interop. Interop is the religion. It's the web, it's WordPress, it's me. I wrote a piece called Rules for Standards Makers, and it's actually become kind of popular. And the first thing it says is that the only thing that matters is interop. Don't tell me about anything else. I don't like it when people say, oh, we don't like XML, let's just use JSON. You go, really? Why do you care? You know what I'm saying? It's like, interrupt.
So I haven't asked a question yet, but the question...
Oh, you haven't?
Yeah, I made my comments. I haven't asked the question.
Okay, I'm sorry.
I'm going to ask, if someone in this room wants to get involved, and I think that I'm kind of in that boat, like I do want to be a part of this quiet group of developers who's following along, what's the actions that they would take at this moment?
Can I ask for help on that one? Because you guys are much better at doing that than I am. Fair guy? Give him the mic. What do we do? I mean, I don't want to go to the formality of getting any kind of working group or anything, but let's set up an informal communication channel somewhere where people who aren't trying to stop evolution, the problem is if I set it up, my trolls are going to show up. And I've got a fair group of them, and amazingly, they're very long-lived, which is something I kind of regret, but somehow you guys managed to do that, right? I mean,
yeah, I think some of the part of this question maybe for some of the
I have a suggestion actually. So we're definitely out of time, right? Why don't we have lunch together and talk about this? Anybody who wants to be involved in something like this? Sure. Would that make sense? Are we having lunch? I didn't even ask.
Yeah, we are having lunch.
At the table, anyway.
Oh, I'm sorry, but please finish.
Well, some of the core teams could probably address this a little bit better, but I think the RSS feed would be something that would work very well integrated into WordPress. We could put Markdown into the feed.
Yes, I plan to ask them to do that, but not yet. Okay, so what I'm doing is I'm implementing a feed, an RSS feed emanating from WordLand, and adding very few features, but as they come along. And then we need to get users. That's the most important thing at this point. This software is ready to use, and so if we don't have any users, I'm never going to make that pitch to WordPress because it's disrespectful. It's like saying I want you to make this popular when I didn't have the ability to make it popular. So that's the first step, make it popular. Second step, then take the collection of features that we've come up with and make a presentation and say it would be awesome and give it a name too, by the way. It should have a name. Right now we call it the source namespace. It's not a good name because there's a lot of things in that namespace that have nothing to do with this. It's just been sort of the place where I drop extensions to RSS that I put in my own stuff. So it needs to be a little bit of a process. It's too early. The WordPress people that I've been working with on this have been enormously helpful and respectful and professional knowledge. They know their product so well, and to be respectful, it's too early to ask. But yes, of course.
And the reader form to support the Markdown in the RSS readers.
I have that. I've already released that under the GPL. That's called Feedland. And if you go to GitHub and look in my account, look for Feedland, and that's all the technology. And there's some very unique technology in there. There's a feature that allows you to subscribe to a subscription list. And that turns out to be as powerful as anything I've ever seen on the internet. It's what we have to do. It's what I want all the podcasting clients to support, so that a great podcaster could say, here's my collection of podcasts that I listen to, and then they could add a feed to that, and that subscription would go to everybody that was subscribed to it. It's an amazing, and we built all kinds of stuff with this. It's not like, I mean, it's one of these features that sounds like, oh, well, that would be nice to have, but it turns out it really makes possible so many things that otherwise you wouldn't even begin to think of doing. So, you know,
we could put that feed into the WordPress dashboard. I think there's a lot of it.
in terms of into what?
Into the WordPress dashboard, because it's got an RSS reader already.
Oh yeah.
But it could support the Markdown extensions.
Can you do that yourself?
There's some
You can.
things that you've already built that
Yeah.
could be moved into WordPress core.
Can I help you? Please.
I'm sure you can.
I mean, may I help? I know my grammar stuff. No, I'm not kidding. I'm absolutely not kidding. This kind of stuff, I made the proposal to the people who do Pocket Cast, which is the podcasting client that I use, I think is an excellent piece of software. And I don't know, we got halfway there, but it's not a market feature yet. And for them, it has to be a market feature, or it has to be a Matt feature. And I'm absolutely sure if he's listening or watching somewhere out there, that would be awesome. Anyway, yes.
Hey guys, Alex from Evolving Web. I'm really happy to see the spirit of this product, which is focusing on the writer and making them a clean experience. And that's always been the best part about WordPress too, right?
I'm sorry, that's the what?
One of the best parts about WordPress is it's focused on the writing experience, and more than other products. I wonder though, a lot of writers work in Google Docs, and I know your attitude to closed source ecosystems and tools.
No,
but
I'm not like that actually.
Fair enough. So how do you see Google Docs fitting into this writer's experience?
No idea. Why would it fit in? I mean, I think that let me try to answer this. Okay. I think the answer is that they ought to implement a support for this API. I think that's the answer. I mean, the door is wide open. I'm also going to give them the API that I developed that makes all this way simpler for a browser-based JavaScript app. MIT licensed. You know, like they could go screw the whole thing up, and I couldn't say anything about it. You know, and not that I wouldn't. I probably would say something about it. But I'm a blogger, so what do you expect, right? Okay.
Yeah, just to simply answer, the people working in Google Docs could turn on the optional feature to allow copy as markdown features and just copy and paste it right into anything else.
Well, but I don't think that's what he was saying. Is that copy and paste is good enough? Because that's not good enough for me. That's what Substack says. Substack says, oh yeah, you can use it for your blog stuff. All you have to do is select all, move over to Substack and paste, and I go, I'm not going to say it. Not in polite company. I think we have to wrap this up at this point. Are you going to
Sure, I'll just wrap up.
Take us
if you
out.
want. Yeah. Big thank you to.
It was my pleasure.